Hey man, the first thing you need to understand is women are emotional decision makers, not logical ones. When she wants to text you, it's not just about reaching out, it's about how it will feel if she does. She'll pick up her phone, open your chat, maybe even type something like, "Hey, how have you been?" But then she stops, because the thought hits her, what if he doesn't reply right away? What if you sound distant? What if she looks weak for reaching out first? That's when fear takes over. Her pride starts whispering in her ear, telling her that texting you first will make her look desperate. So instead of hitting send, she locks her phone, tells herself she's over it, and pretends she doesn't care. But you and I both know she does. You see, when a woman holds herself back from texting you, it's usually not because she doesn't want to talk. It's because she's scared of what your silence might say. In her mind, the dynamic between you two is a battlefield of emotions, and whoever reaches out first loses power. She doesn't want to be the one chasing, even if every part of her wants to hear from you. So she'll wait, she'll distract herself, she'll check her phone every few minutes, hoping you'll text her instead. And when you don't, that silence will eat at her, because she knows you used to chase, you used to check in, you used to be the one starting the conversation. But now, you've gone quiet. And that silence, it speaks louder than any message ever could. She wants to text you when she's lying in bed at night, scrolling through old messages, reading the way you used to talk to her, how effortlessly you made her laugh, how naturally you made her feel seen. But then she remembers how things ended. Maybe she pushed you away. Maybe she tested your patience. Maybe she assumed you'd always come back. And that realization stops her dead in her tracks. Because the thought of texting you isn't just about saying hi, it's about reopening a door she knows she slammed shut. She wants to reach out, but she's afraid you've moved on, afraid that the version of you who once would have dropped everything for her doesn't exist anymore. And she's right. That version of you, the one who over-explained, over-apologized, and over-gave, doesn't live here anymore. You've changed. You've stopped feeding her ego. You've stopped letting her silence dictate your worth, and she can feel that shift, even if you haven't spoken in weeks. That's what's stopping her. It's not indifference, it's intimidation. She senses your detachment, that quiet confidence that says, "I'm good with or without you," and that scares her more than anything. Because she remembers when she had emotional control, when your world revolved around her responses. Now, it doesn't. Your energy feels unavailable. Your attention feels earned, not given, and that's what keeps her stuck in this silent tug-of-war with herself. Here's what most men don't realize. When you pull back emotionally, women don't just miss you, they start doubting themselves. She'll replay everything. The last conversation, the tone of your voice, the moment things shifted. She'll wonder if she said something wrong, if she pushed too far, if she crossed a line she can't come back from, and that uncertainty eats at her. Because unlike men, women process loss emotionally before they understand it logically. She doesn't know why she suddenly feels anxious, why she keeps thinking about you, why your silence feels heavier than anyone else's. But that's how it works. Your absence is a mirror that forces her to confront her own behavior. When a woman knows she messed up, even if she won't admit it, she starts playing little mind games to ease her guilt. She might post something online that she hopes you'll see. A quote, a selfie, a story that's just subtle enough to get your attention. But that's not strength. That's fear disguised as confidence. She's hoping you'll take the bait, that you'll message her and break the silence. Because deep down, she wants permission to care again. She doesn't know how to fix things without losing her pride. So she hides behind indirect communication, waiting for you to do what she no longer feels bold enough to do herself. But here's where everything changes when you don't respond. When you see her little breadcrumbs and decide to stay silent, you flip the entire script. Suddenly, the same woman who once made you feel uncertain now feels that same uncertainty eating her alive. She'll start wondering if you've truly let go, if your silence means indifference or emotional control. And that's when she'll realize how much power she once had and how much she lost. The man who used to react now observes. The man who used to chase now moves in silence. That shift makes her curious, then anxious, then obsessed, because nothing messes with a woman's mind more than a man she can no longer affect. So when she hesitates to text you, it's not because she doesn't care, it's because she cares too much. She doesn't know what version of you she'll get now. The man who used to reassure her, gone. The man who used to wait for her texts, silent. The man she took for granted, reborn. And that uncertainty terrifies her, because the moment she hits send, she's giving you the emotional power she once guarded with everything. That's why she hesitates, rewrites messages, deletes them, and checks your profile instead. Her silence isn't strength, it's paralysis. She wants to reach out, but she's afraid the man on the other end no longer belongs to her. And that's exactly where you need to keep her, in that uncertainty. Because that's the only space where she truly reflects, truly respects, and truly reconsiders her behavior. The longer you stay silent, the more she begins to realize that you were the stable force, not the clingy one, that your consistency wasn't weakness, it was value. She'll start connecting the dots, the peace you brought her life, the energy you carried, the effort you gave. And once she realizes how rare that is, she'll understand what she threw away. But by then, it'll be too late, because your silence will have done what words never could. It taught her what losing you really means. So don't break the silence out of weakness, man. Let her wonder. Let her feel the tension she created. Let her sit with the emotions she tried to project onto you. Because the truth is, the moment she texts you, the power shifts back in your favor. But if you reach out first, you reset the entire dynamic. So stay still, stay composed. Let her overthink, let her imagine, let her miss the version of you she can't access anymore. Because right now, you're not teaching her a lesson, you're reminding her of your value. And when she finally texts you, and she will, it won't be casual. It'll come from the part of her that finally realizes she should have never made you question your worth in the first place. When she thinks about texting you, her mind turns into a battlefield of emotion and ego. The logical part of her, small, faint, almost inaudible, whispers that she misses you, that she should just say what she feels. But her pride, her fear, her need for control, they scream louder. She'll stare at your name on her screen, that familiar chat history, staring back at her like a mirror of everything she lost. Her thumbs will hover over the keyboard, her chest tight with emotion she doesn't know how to process. She'll type a message, delete it, then retype it again. It might start as something simple, like, hey, or I was just thinking about you, but then she imagines what happens after. What if you don't reply? What if you sound cold? What if you're seeing someone else? Those questions spiral through her head until the anxiety becomes unbearable. So she puts her phone down, trying to convince herself she's fine, but she's not. Because the moment she thought of texting you, she admitted to herself that she still cares, and that realization alone terrifies her more than your silence ever could. You have to understand something profound here. Women rarely reach out when they know they've lost emotional leverage. It's not that they can't, it's that they don't want to feel powerless. And your silence, your calm, non-reactive energy makes her feel exactly that. It exposes her. It reminds her that emotions are not weapons when they no longer work on you. Every minute she doesn't text is a minute she's trying to hold on to the illusion that she still has control. But internally, she's unraveling. She's comparing herself to the women who might have your attention now. She's overanalyzing the last thing you posted. She's trying to decode your energy from a distance, wondering if you've truly detached or if you're just pretending. That's the dangerous part for her. She doesn't know anymore, because your silence has created mystery, and mystery, in a woman's mind, breeds attraction. The less you reveal, the more she obsesses. Late at night, when her world quiets down and distractions fade, that's when your absence hits her hardest. It's not about the words you used to say, or the jokes you used to share. It's about the energy you carried. You were her emotional grounding. Even when she didn't admit it, she relied on your attention as her invisible source of validation. But now that it's gone, her emotional world feels off balance. That's why she can't sleep sometimes. That's why her mood shifts without reason. Because whether she realizes it or not, she's in withdrawal. Not from you as a person, but from the feeling your presence gave her. And this is the part where she starts to spiral. She'll try to replace that feeling. She'll go out more, talk to new men, scroll endlessly through social media. But every attempt feels hollow because it's not you. It's not your tone, your patience, your stillness. And the more she tries to fill that space, the deeper her emptiness grows. Her pride will keep fighting it though. That's the battle you can't see. The silent war inside her between wanting to reach out and refusing to surrender. She'll tell herself, If he wanted to talk, he would have texted me. She'll even tell her friends she's done or that you were toxic. But every time she says it, her voice will falter just slightly, because deep down she knows she's lying, not to them, but to herself. That's the feminine paradox. She wants you to care without showing that she needs you to. She wants you to chase, but she also wants to believe she's not the one who made the mistake, so she'll keep waiting, hoping you'll cave first. But the longer you stay silent, the more that narrative collapses. Your restraint becomes her reflection, showing her that maybe she was the problem all along. There comes a point when your silence stops being something she resents and starts being something she respects. It's subtle at first, just a shift in tone when she thinks about you. She'll stop calling you cold or distant in her mind. Instead, she'll start calling you strong. She'll realize that the same composure she once mistook for indifference was actually discipline. And in that realization, something powerful happens. She starts to miss you differently, not from ego, but from admiration. She starts to remember how your energy made her feel safe, how your presence made her feel seen. She begins to understand that what she called boring was actually stability, that what she once dismissed as emotionless was actually emotional mastery, and that's when she starts to crave you again, not because you gave her attention, but because you withdrew it with purpose. When a woman reaches this stage, the silence becomes unbearable. She starts noticing signs everywhere, songs, scents, moments that remind her of you. Her subconscious starts connecting dots in ways she can't ignore. She'll dream about you, think about messaging you first thing in the morning, then talk herself out of it by noon. That's her pride playing defense against her heart. She'll even convince herself you'll text her soon, just to delay facing the truth. But every passing day without a message from you chips away at that illusion. The silence starts feeling permanent, and that's when she panics. Not because she lost you, but because she realizes she can't control how you feel anymore. You've reclaimed your emotional independence, and that's something her ego can't process. Understand this. Women crave emotional certainty. They want to know where they stand. That's why your unpredictability now feels intoxicating to her. You've flipped the polarity. When you were predictable, she felt secure but bored. Now that you're distant and detached, she feels anxious but intrigued. It's a psychological reversal. The same energy she once resisted has become the energy she now chases. Your silence, your restraint, your refusal to react, these are now the exact things pulling her in. And that's how the emotional tables turn. When you stop trying to win her back, you stop radiating desperation, you become an enigma again, and that mystery reactivates her attraction. Because attraction, at its core, is curiosity. And now she's curious again. But here's the beautiful irony. By the time she finally works up the courage to text you, you won't be waiting for it. That's what true detachment does. You stop living in her orbit and start building your own universe. You'll have peace, focus, direction. You won't need her message to feel validated. And that's what will make her text even more emotional for her. She'll sense the shift instantly. You'll reply differently. You won't rush to respond. You won't over-explain or over-invest. You'll sound calm, composed, unbothered. And that energy will hit her harder than any romantic line ever could, because now you've become the man she always wanted, but too late for her to have. And that's the moment where her pride truly breaks, not because of your silence, but because of what your silence taught her, that love without respect is worthless, and that attention without effort is temporary. She'll finally understand that the chase, the validation, the emotional games, none of it compares to the peace of being with a man who values himself. You were never cold, you were controlled. You were never distant, you were discerning. And now, she'll realize that losing a man like that isn't just a breakup, it's a spiritual loss, because she'll never feel that kind of energy again. She'll never meet another man who had the strength to love her deeply and walk away calmly. And that realization will haunt her every time she's with someone new. So, when you ask yourself why she hasn't texted yet, remember this: she's not holding back because she's over you. She's holding back because she's terrified. Terrified of your silence. Terrified of her own mistakes. Terrified of facing a version of you she no longer has power over. That's why she hesitates, why she watches you from the shadows, why she replays your name in her mind but never sends the message, because deep down, she knows the truth. Once she texts you, she exposes everything. her regret, her longing, her fear. And that's the most painful part for her, knowing that the same man she once took for granted is now the only man she's afraid to lose again. At this stage, her silence begins to betray her. It's no longer a sign of control, it's a symptom of emotional exhaustion. She's running from her own thoughts now. Every time she sees something that reminds her of you, a song lyric, a phrase you used to say, a quiet evening where she once used to text you, her body reacts before her mind can catch up. Her heart rate quickens, her stomach tightens, her hands hover over her phone again. She opens your chat, stares at your last message, the one she probably ignored, dismissed, or responded to with indifference back then, and suddenly it looks different now. It doesn't read as needy or clingy anymore. It reads as caring, patient, real. She scrolls up and sees the parts of the conversation she never really appreciated, the times you were trying to connect, the moments you were genuinely listening, and that's when guilt hits her like a wave, not because she's lost you, but because she finally sees herself through your silence. That realization, that internal confrontation, is what stops her. She can't text you, not yet, because she's too busy wrestling with the version of herself that ruined something pure. The longer your silence lasts, the more her mind turns it into a story. Women are storytellers by nature. They don't just experience feelings, they narrate them. So now she starts creating theories, entire emotional scripts about why you haven't reached out. Maybe you've met someone else. Maybe you finally moved on. Maybe you realized your worth and decided you deserve better. Each possibility burns a little more than the last. And what's fascinating is that even though these thoughts hurt her, she clings to them, because deep down, they remind her that you were real, that what you gave wasn't ordinary, that losing you wasn't just losing a man, it was losing emotional safety. She'll talk about you with her friends in vague, defensive ways. He was too serious, she'll say. It just didn't work. But her friends will notice the crack in her voice, the way her tone softens when she says your name, because no matter what story she tells herself, her heart knows the truth. She's still waiting for you to break the silence. This is where the real irony begins. She starts to crave the very thing she used to criticize about you, your emotional stability. In the past, she might have mistaken your calmness for coldness, your focus for disinterest, your quiet for distance. But now, surrounded by emotionally chaotic men who don't listen, who talk but never understand, she starts to see the difference. You weren't boring, you were grounded, you weren't passive, you were patient, you weren't detached, you were self-contained. And that contrast hits her like a freight train. Because women, whether they admit it or not, are drawn to men who can stay centered when they can't. The more chaotic her emotional world becomes, the more she starts to long for your presence again. That's why your silence hurts her, not because it's cruel, but because it's stable. It represents everything she lost when she lost you. And in that quiet contrast, she starts to see what true masculinity actually looks like: calm, certain, and unbothered. Eventually, her pride starts to crack. Not all at once. Pride dies slowly, painfully, like a candle running out of wax. It flickers between "I don't care" and "I miss him." She might text you something trivial just to test the waters. A meme, a random question, a subtle pretext for conversation. But she won't send it. She'll write it, delete it, then stare at the blank screen again, paralyzed by the possibility that you might ignore her. Because now she understands the stakes. Your silence isn't revenge, it's reflection. It's proof that you've moved into a place she can no longer reach. That terrifies her because she once believed she could always get you back. But you've shown her something no other man did. The strength to walk away without theatrics, without closure, without bitterness. That level of peace is magnetic, but it's also painful to witness for someone who once had all your access. She's not used to being forgotten by someone who actually mattered, and that's what's truly haunting her. She knows she might never get another chance to be seen that deeply again. Now her silence turns into obsession. She starts checking your social media, watching your stories from fake accounts, asking mutual friends about you. She doesn't even realize how transparent she's being. She's looking for clues, for any sign that you still think about her. But what she finds instead, your calmness, your growth, your absence of bitterness, only deepens her confusion, because it defies everything she expected. She thought your silence would eventually turn into anger, into a message, into a reaction. But you gave her nothing. no closure, no confrontation, just quiet self-respect. And that kind of indifference, when it comes from a man she once had emotional power over, hits harder than hate. Hate means you still care. Indifference means she never mattered enough to hold you hostage. That's what she feels now. That painful, humbling understanding that she's no longer in your world, no longer in control, and no longer the one who gets to define the story. And that, right there, is when she finally realizes she didn't lose a man, she lost a man. You see, most women believe they can leave and still return to the same version of you. It's a fantasy they hold on to, that no matter what happens, you'll always be there waiting. But when you go silent long enough, that illusion collapses. She realizes you didn't just move on, you evolved. You used the pain to build purpose, the loss to build discipline. And now, even if she texts you, she won't be texting the man she remembers. She'll be reaching out to someone who's healed, focused, and unattainable. That's what really stops her. Not pride, not confusion, but the recognition that she can't reach you anymore. Because your silence isn't empty, it's filled with growth. It's filled with new priorities, new standards, new peace. And she knows if she ever does message you, she won't be getting back what she lost. She'll be meeting someone new, someone stronger, someone she can't manipulate anymore. And that's where the dynamic completely flips. The woman who once held all the emotional leverage now feels powerless in her own story. She's no longer the one deciding when or how things move, you are. Because silence, when wielded correctly, isn't passive, it's active power. It's a form of control that doesn't need to shout. It's not about ignoring her, it's about outgrowing her. Every second you don't reply, you reinforce that you've built something more important than her validation, your own peace. And that's something she'll never compete with, because peace isn't something she can seduce or argue with. Peace doesn't respond to guilt, to manipulation, or to tears. It just exists, immovable. And that immovability, that unshakable calm, is what drives her crazy. Because for the first time, she's met a man who can't be moved by her emotions. By now, her thoughts about you have turned into an echo chamber. Everything reminds her of you because she never truly detached. She just distracted herself. The connection you had wasn't superficial. It imprinted on her. That's what makes it hard for her to move on. She thought detachment meant ignoring you, but now she realizes detachment only works when you don't care, and she still does. Every silent day from you reinforces that reality. Every time she resists texting you, it's not strength, it's fear. Fear of rejection, fear of your calm response, fear of realizing she doesn't affect you anymore. That's why she'll start testing the waters indirectly, through mutual friends, subtle likes, random signs of attention. But the truth is, every indirect move she makes only exposes her more, because you're not chasing anymore, you're observing. And in that silence, she finally learns that the man who no longer reacts is the man who already won. And here's the final twist. She will text you eventually. Maybe not today, maybe not next month, but she will. It'll happen on a random night when her emotions finally overpower her pride. The message won't be long. It'll be short, cautious, something like, "Hey, how have you been?" But behind those 5 words will be months of emotional chaos, guilt, and longing. When that moment comes, you'll feel a strange mix of power and peace. Because you'll realize you don't need to respond to prove anything. Whether you reply or not, you've already made your point. Your silence taught her everything you could have ever said with words. You showed her that love isn't about chasing validation. It's about valuing yourself enough to walk away when you're not respected. And that's the kind of lesson that changes people. Not just her, but you too. So the next time you find yourself wondering why she hasn't texted you, remember this. It's not that she doesn't want to, it's that she can't, not yet. Because texting you would mean facing the truth, that you were the one who truly cared, that you were the one who stayed loyal, that you were the one who didn't break when she pushed you away. And admitting that means admitting defeat. That's why she hesitates. That's why she rewrites, deletes, and waits. Because deep down, she knows that no message she could ever send will undo what your silence already revealed. You were the calm after her storm, the peace she didn't appreciate, the man she'll never find again. And that's what really stops her from texting you. not pride, not indifference, but the painful truth that she already lost the only man who truly saw her before she even realized what she had. When she finally breaks her silence and sends that message, it doesn't come from a place of confidence, it comes from surrender. She's been battling with herself for weeks, maybe months, pretending that she's fine, pretending that your absence doesn't affect her, but now she's tired. The silence has become too loud, too heavy. The idea of not knowing where she stands with you has eaten away at her composure. So she picks up her phone late one night, the kind of night when the world feels quiet, when her distractions fail her, when her mind won't stop replaying your name, and she writes to you, "Hey, that's it, just one word." It's small, but behind it is a storm of vulnerability she can't hide. Her heart races as soon as she sends it. She stares at her screen like it holds her entire fate. Every second you don't respond feels like a year, because now she's in the position you once were, waiting for validation, waiting for acknowledgement, waiting to feel seen again. The irony? She has no idea that this time, your peace means you don't need to reply immediately or at all. That first text isn't about starting a conversation, it's about checking if she still matters. That's what she's really doing. Testing the emotional waters she once thought she owned. She's not even ready for what happens next. When you don't reply right away, she'll panic internally. Her mind will start spinning in circles, replaying all the times she took your presence for granted. She'll convince herself you didn't see it, or that you're busy, or that you're trying to make her wait on purpose. But underneath all those rationalizations lies a deeper fear that your silence this time isn't a strategy, it's genuine indifference. And that's the part that crushes her, because for the first time, she's realizing that she's no longer the one who dictates your emotional rhythm. You've taken your power back by simply not caring whether she stays or goes. That's the most dangerous kind of strength, the kind that doesn't need to be announced, only felt. Eventually she'll try again, maybe a few hours later, maybe a few days. The second message will be longer, a little more open, but still cautious. Something like, "I just wanted to see how you've been. I was thinking about you." Now the cracks in her armor are showing. She's trying to sound casual, but the weight of her regret seeps through every word. This isn't about checking in, it's about reaching out for emotional closure. She can't get anywhere else. What she doesn't realize is that closure isn't something you give her anymore. It's something she has to earn, through accountability, through sincerity, through facing what she did. If you reply, do it calmly, without resentment, without attachment. A short, grounded response like, "I've been good, hope you're doing well too," carries more power than 1,000 emotional confessions, because what destroys her isn't your anger, it's your calm. The realization that you've healed without needing her apology. After that, she'll start overcompensating. You'll notice her trying to be overly kind, overly warm, maybe even flirty again. She'll try to recreate the emotional bond you once shared, hoping to spark your attention. But it won't work. Not because she's doing it wrong, but because the energy has shifted permanently. You see, emotional connection is built on polarity. When she once had your full focus, she was the one pulling away. But now, your silence has flipped that polarity. You've become the source of calm, mystery, and value, the exact things that magnetically pull a woman in. So now, she's the one chasing, trying to earn back your validation. And here's the truth, she doesn't even know why she's doing it. She'll tell herself she misses you, but what she's really missing is the version of herself that felt secure in your presence. You became her mirror, and now she's desperate to see herself in your reflection again. Her behavior after you respond will reveal everything. If she senses that you're emotionally centered, that your responses are thoughtful but not eager, grounded but not cold, it will shake her. Because that calm confidence is what she always wanted but didn't know how to handle. She'll feel drawn to you again, but this time it's different. There's respect in it, there's curiosity. She'll want to understand what changed in you, why you don't react the same way, why your words feel so measured. What she doesn't realize is that your silence transformed you. You've learned how to exist without her chaos. You've built an inner peace that no validation can touch, and that right there is what she'll find irresistible. Because in her world of emotional volatility, your calm has become the most intoxicating thing she's ever known. She'll begin to test you again, not because she wants to hurt you, but because she wants to see if you're real. Women test consistency. It's their subconscious way of determining whether your strength is authentic or temporary. So she'll bring up old memories, poke at sensitive topics, maybe even mention other men to see if she can shake your composure. But this time, you won't flinch. You'll let her words hang in the air, unfazed. Because once you've been through emotional chaos and chosen peace, manipulation loses its grip. And when she realizes that nothing she says can throw you off balance anymore, she'll feel something she hasn't felt in a long time: admiration. Because she finally sees that your strength isn't performance, it's truth. You've mastered emotional detachment, and that's a language she doesn't know how to speak, but desperately wants to learn. As the conversations continue, something inside her begins to shift. The emotional upper hand she once had now belongs entirely to you, not because you took it, but because she gave it away the moment she let pride control her actions. Now, she's the one replaying your texts, overanalyzing your tone, wondering if she said too much or not enough. She's trying to read between your words the way you once tried to read hers. Every delayed response from you triggers her curiosity. Every calm sentence makes her feel small but safe, because for the first time, she's interacting with a version of you that's not emotionally available, and that mystery drives her wild. She realizes that she can't manipulate a man who no longer needs her, and ironically, that's the man she now wants the most. This is where you start to see the full circle moment, the emotional reversal that no one warns men about. The woman who once dismissed you now finds herself fighting for your attention, but your energy has evolved beyond needing her validation. You're no longer fueled by the idea of getting her back. You're fueled by peace, purpose, and self-respect. So while she's trying to rekindle something emotional, you're operating from logic and awareness. You see her patterns clearly now, the same games, the same cycles. But instead of engaging, you simply observe. You no longer seek her approval, you analyze her consistency. That's what true power looks like, emotional detachment with awareness. It's when you can still care but not crumble, and that's the moment she realizes she can't hurt you anymore. Now, her attraction shifts from emotional to psychological. She doesn't just miss how you made her feel, she misses the version of herself that existed when she was around you. You represented stability in a world that thrives on chaos. You grounded her. You gave her a glimpse of what true masculine energy feels like: firm, steady, patient. And the more she interacts with other men, the clearer it becomes that they don't have it. They react, they over-explain, they chase. But you stay still. You let her come to you. That composure forces her to confront her own emotional immaturity. And deep down, she respects you for it, even if she can't admit it, because she knows she's dealing with a man who's mastered the one thing most never do: control over himself. When she finally says, "I miss you," it won't sound like it used to. It won't be casual. It'll carry a tone of defeat, of longing, of realization. She'll mean it, not just because she misses you, but because she finally understands what she lost. But by then, something in you has changed. You'll hear her words, but they won't have the same effect. You'll feel empathy, maybe nostalgia, but not the old attachment, because the silence taught you everything. Love couldn't. That real strength is quiet, that peace is more powerful than passion, and that not every woman who desires you deserves access to you. So whether you decide to reconnect or walk away completely, the choice will be yours, and that's the ultimate shift. The man who once begged for her attention now stands in control of his own story. And nothing, not her apology, not her regret, not her sudden affection, can take that peace away from you again. When she finally starts coming back consistently, don't mistake her return for redemption. Women rarely come back because they've suddenly become more loyal. They come back because they've realized that peace, security, and emotional depth don't exist in the men they chased after you. The other men gave her attention. Sure, they flattered her, desired her, posted her, but none of it felt the same. You see, attraction built on chaos burns fast. Attraction built on grounded masculine energy lasts. And now, as she talks to you again, you'll sense something in her tone that wasn't there before: softness. Her words won't have the same defensive edge. Her laugh will sound nervous, almost apologetic. She's trying to rebuild what she broke, but she doesn't know how. She's testing your energy, trying to find out if there's still warmth behind your silence. And that's when you'll realize something profound. You've outgrown her emotionally. You no longer crave what once consumed you. As you talk again, she'll drop subtle hints of guilt. She might say, "I've been thinking a lot lately," or "I didn't realize how much I took you for granted." Those words aren't manipulation. They're fragments of truth struggling to escape her pride, but they come too late. Because real growth isn't about regret after consequences. It's about accountability before damage, and she never gave you that. Still, part of you will feel tempted. You'll think, maybe she's changed. Maybe this time it'll be different. But that's where your discipline is tested. You must remember, people don't change because they miss you. They change because they face themselves. And most women don't face themselves. They distract themselves until they lose the one man who made them feel something real. She'll say she misses you, but she's missing who she was when you were around, not who you are now. Because now, you're too calm, too focused, too evolved to fit back into the same emotional frame she once built for you. She'll try to mirror your calm now. She'll slow her responses. She'll pretend to be unbothered. She'll try to match your energy, but you'll see through it. You can't fake peace. You can't pretend self-control. You either have it or you don't. And as she tries to act like she's not affected, her inconsistencies will show. One day she'll sound confident, the next she'll sound emotional and confused. That's how you'll know your silence did what words never could. It disrupted her illusion of control. The man she thought she could manipulate now makes her question herself, and that shift is powerful, not because it's revenge, but because it reveals who truly grew. You didn't change to win her back. You changed because losing her forced you to face yourself. That's what separates strong men from desperate ones. You didn't rebuild yourself to impress her. You rebuilt yourself so that her validation no longer determined your peace. When she realizes she can't emotionally control you anymore, she'll switch her strategy. She'll start appealing to nostalgia. She'll bring up the moments you shared, the late night talks, the laughter, the closeness. She's not doing it to reconnect emotionally. She's doing it to reawaken your empathy. She's hoping that if she can make you feel again, she can make you feel again. But this time, you won't bite. You'll remember that every memory she's romanticizing now was followed by her indifference later. That every sweet moment had a breaking point she chose to create. Nostalgia is a dangerous illusion. It edits out the pain, the disrespect, the moments you beg to be understood. Don't let her rewrite history just because she regrets the ending. The past only holds power when you let it. And you, my friend, have learned the art of detachment, the discipline of remembering without reopening. By now, your silence has transformed from mystery to magnetism. Everything you say feels deliberate, measured, calm. You've become a man who doesn't chase emotions, you command them. She'll sense that, even through text. The way you respond, the way you take your time, the way your words feel like they come from a man with purpose, it all reminds her that she's dealing with someone who's evolved. Women crave this energy deeply because it's rare. The modern dating world is full of reactive men. Men who beg, who argue, who explain. But you've transcended that. You speak less but mean more. You move less but impact more. And in a world where everyone's screaming for attention, your silence becomes irresistible. It's not arrogance, it's control. And that control isn't about dominating her. It's about mastering yourself so deeply that no woman's validation or rejection can shake your inner peace. This is where the final transformation happens. She starts viewing you as the standard. Every man she meets after you will be subconsciously compared to you. Your calm, your tone, your focus, your restraint. And none of them will measure up. Because those traits aren't common. They're earned through suffering, reflection, and self-mastery. You didn't become this version of yourself overnight. You forged it in silence, in heartbreak, in stillness. And now that silence has turned into your superpower. She'll see your face in other people's words, hear your voice in random moments, and it will frustrate her. Because the man she lost no longer exists, and the man you've become won't settle for her again. That's what makes her pain permanent. She's haunted by the realization that she taught you how to detach from her. And here's the truth. Most men never realize until it's too late. Women respect boundaries far more than they respect affection. You could have written her poems, bought her gifts, called her beautiful every day, and it still wouldn't have made her value you as much as your silence does now. Because silence is the language of self-worth. It communicates what words can't, that you don't need her to complete you, to understand you, or to save you. she can sense it now. Every time she tries to pull you back emotionally and you stay composed, she feels smaller, not because you're diminishing her, but because she's facing herself through your stillness. That's what real power looks like. You didn't shout to prove your value, you simply stopped entertaining anything that didn't align with your peace. If she comes back fully now, you'll have a choice, a real one. You can take her back, or you can walk away for good. But whichever you choose, do it from strength, not loneliness. If you take her back, do it because she's earned it, not because you miss her. Watch her consistency, not her emotions. A woman's apology means nothing without changed behavior. But if you choose to walk away, don't do it out of anger, do it with grace. Because that's what breaks her more than anything. Not your distance, but your peace in it. You've become untouchable. Not because you built walls, but because you built standards. You no longer react to women, you respond to alignment. And that kind of man, calm, patient, and selective, becomes unforgettable. At some point she'll realize something that will stay with her forever. You were never the one who lost control. She was. You loved her honestly. You gave her stability. You communicated. You cared deeply. But she mistook your patience for weakness, your loyalty for complacency, your kindness for need. And when you finally walked away, she learned the hardest truth, that good men don't stay where they're disrespected. That silence isn't cowardice, it's finality. And that the man who doesn't argue, who doesn't explain, who doesn't chase, is the man who's truly done. That's what your silence represents now, the end of her illusion. The moment she realizes that she had her chance with a man who would have given her everything, and she destroyed it, chasing validation that can't even compare. So if she's texting you now, calling, reminiscing, or finding excuses to re-enter your life, understand what's really happening. She's not coming back to rekindle love, she's coming back to escape accountability. Don't let nostalgia or loneliness blind you to that truth, because you've already won the war, the silent war of detachment, of emotional mastery, of reclaiming your power. Let her feel the weight of her choices. Let her see what it looks like when a man chooses peace over chaos, logic over impulse, dignity over desire. Because when she sees that, when she realizes that her greatest punishment isn't losing you, but watching you thrive without her, that's when the lesson is complete. She'll finally understand that you were never the one who needed her attention. She was the one who needed your silence to see her reflection clearly.